Well, good morning, everyone. It's a very rainy Wednesday morning, and it rained pretty much all of the night, and it's supposed to rain all of today as well. And I think this will make things certainly quite interesting. It certainly gives me a very large window of having some pretty decent light, just because the overcast conditions do lend themselves quite well to shooting in the forest, and I'm guaranteed to get quite a bit of that. But this is a location I'm very, very new to, so unlike when I go to places like Zion or other places in the Colorado Plateau where I have a plan for kind of what it is I'm looking for, what it is I'm looking to shoot, I really don't have that plan here, and I think it's just part of the process of getting to know a location. It can be kind of a challenge at times, but also it can be kind of fun, so we'll see how that all works out. But I was just thinking about something a little bit earlier. So the lighter right here that I use for starting my camp stove, I've been using this for 10 years now, and it's about half full right now. But a little story about that lighter. So when I went on my first solo landscape photography trip, it was back in 2009, and it was in February. It was in southern Utah. By the time I arrived at my location, the sun was starting to set, so it was starting to get a little chilly. And so the previous occupants at the campsite, they had left some firewood, some kindling, so I figured I was going to start a fire, and I was going to get some warmth and just kind of sit back and kind of enjoy it before going to bed. And so I have this sort of flint and steel fire starter, and kind of set up the fire and got the kindling in there, and went to strike the flint and steel fire starter, and then the half of it just kind of flew off somewhere. Just kind of heard sound ping somewhere. So I spent the next hour or so kind of sifting through the ashes, trying to see if I could find the other part, because it was an important piece of equipment to have, and I only had one of them, and because that's what I needed to light the stove for, making my food or everything else along those lines. So I learned that day that it's important to have duplicates on things. So the next day I drove to, I think, the Kanab area, and at a gas station I bought a lighter, just to have that as a backup, and been using that for 10 years now. But I actually have another, probably 2 fire starters in my car just in case. But yeah, kind of interesting how things have changed through years, but still using that lighter. But I'm gonna enjoy my tea here on this nice rainy morning, and then get things packed up and figure out where I'm gonna head today. And even if I don't find something to shoot today, what I will probably gain is some knowledge about the area and some other themes to what to look for and things along those lines. So it's all part of the process of getting to know a new location. But I'm gonna enjoy my tea. Amazing how the whole forest just kind of comes alive in the rain. The sound of the raindrops hitting the leaves overhead, and then the bigger drops hitting the floor of the forest here. And some of the plants that are growing down along the ground kind of dancing around as they're getting hit by the raindrops. And this is such a really foreign environment for me that I figured I'd just go for a little hike here and just kind of take everything in and see if I can sort of better understand what it is I'd like to capture here. And one thing that really stands out to me is the backlit leaves of the the maples, the big leaf maples. It looks so wonderful here, and especially in the nice, soft, overcast light. But it's definitely a bit intimidating in the sense that there's just so much stuff going on in every angle. But I know there's something here, and I may not find something necessarily on this particular hike, but we've got some other ideas as far as where to head. But I figured it'd be good just to take it all in and see if anything really stands out to me and gives me some ideas as far as what it is I should sort of look for, and gives me some ideas of what to shoot. But sure is beautiful here. So I've been wandering around for a few hours now, and the rain is quite constant. It gets a little heavier at times, but if you get underneath one of these big redwood trees, you're sheltered at least a little bit. But as I was wandering around, I found a kind of interesting area. So it's this area you see back behind me, and the path kind of winds around a little bit, and then there's some overhanging trees, and it's all in kind of a nice, soft, backlit kind of light. So I went ahead and brought my camera out here and set up a wide-angle composition. See my camera right there, and kind of tricky because it's hard to see the ground glass to focus. Plus also it fogs up really easily. My loop fogs up really easily. Depth of field is tricky, so at a certain point I just kind of guessed a little bit, so we'll see how it turns out. I feel like this trip is going to be mostly kind of a little bit experimental for me, kind of learning to work in these conditions. But it's so calm out here, so quiet, just the sound of the rain. I'm really loving this. This morning when I was making tea, I told you that story about the lighter that I bought 10 years ago that I still use to light my camp stove, and how that was a lighter I bought because I kind of had a mishap and lost my flint and steel for starting my stove. And it was then that I learned to carry a backup. And so I carry a backup on a lot of different things, including my microphone, which is good because my main microphone got a little soaked, so it's kind of out of commission for a little while till it dries up. But I'm using my backup mic right now. Hopefully the audio levels are pretty decent. But I went out for a few hours in the middle of the day, just kind of hiked around, and kind of found a couple areas while I was doing video, just doing some slider video stuff. And it's kind of cool because when I'm doing the video, it forces me to slow down a little bit more and sort of take in my surroundings. And the things that look good on video aren't always the things that look good for a still photo, but it kind of makes me think a little bit differently. And that's kind of become part of my process through the years. So I'm gonna head over to a couple different scenes and see if I can put a composition on them. So this is the scene that I found a little earlier on as I was just kind of hiking through the forest here. And I like the way that there's a really light colored redwood in the background, and it's got some light hitting a little bit more from the side, so it shows off a little bit of depth and dimension to it, which is kind of nice. And since our eye is usually attracted to light colored subjects, I just kind of found a framing where it's just kind of
in there in the background, kind of in among the other trees that are a little bit darker colored, more in the foreground. So pretty simple composition. Used my 240 millimeter lens, which is equivalent to about a 35 millimeter if you're comparing it to a full frame camera. And exposed a sheet of Provia as well as a sheet of Ektar. So we'll see how it goes. But I think depth of field is going to be a little tricky. I focused about a third of the way in and then stopped down to f45. And I think I'll get the important stuff, but we'll see. But in any case, it feels pretty good to expose another sheet of film on another subject here. And I guess I'll get things packed up and then get back to camp.
Well, I am back at camp now, kind of taking shelter under the lift gate of my 4Runner here, just kind of sitting on the back bumper here. And just enjoying the sights and the sounds, and hear the birds chirping and hear the rain just hitting everything around me. And today was a pretty interesting day. It was definitely a much different environment than I'm used to working in. Just a constant rain pretty much all day long, just a little bit of a break kind of in the early mid-afternoon, but then it started raining again pretty good. But I have no clue what to expect as far as the scenes I photographed today. I'll say it's pretty difficult working in these conditions, just from the standpoint that the moment you look at the ground glass, it just kind of fogs up. So it's kind of hard to see focus. It's hard to see composition. And at a certain point, I just kind of end up settling a little bit with decisions with regard to focus and camera movements and stuff. So it's not quite as nice as working in conditions where you can, I don't know, see what you're doing. But it's all part of the challenge, I suppose. And we'll see how the photos turn out. I mean, they could be okay photos. They could be some of the worst photos I've ever taken. But it's all a learning process. And based on that, I'll be able to do better next time. But it'd be nice to get at least a little something from this trip. But I got all my gear kind of opened up in the back of my 4Runner there, just to kind of let it air dry a little bit there. Because the dividers and pouches and everything I use for all the camera equipment, it got pretty rained on today, so it's all pretty soggy wet, but it's letting it dry in there so it's just not sitting in a big wet backpack. But it's supposed to rain until about midnight, and then it's supposed to clear up a little bit and then rain again tomorrow, so we'll see what I find. But definitely enjoying the view here at the back of my 4Runner, and we'll see you all in the morning. If you enjoy this ad-free and clickbait-free content and want to help me live my dream, a voluntary contribution of just $24 a year helps keep my gas tank full and my film freezer stocked. For more information on how to support me and my work, please visit the donation section of my website at benhorne.com/donate. I also have prints and my portfolio box set available on my website. You can find a direct link down below in the show notes. Thanks in advance for your support.